The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Scout 6316, 8.8 for 6,000. Scout 6316, North Hill Approach, gonna maintain 3,000, I'm 1 for the right. 3,000, Scout 6316.
If you're on the East Coast, we are coming to you live from Uncle Jimbo's cabin, sharing interdimensional pancakes between the Pacific Northwest and the Desert Southwest with blueberries and Canadian maple syrup. Yum! As we do every weekend here on Spaced Out Radio. There's going to be some bacon in there, too, I betcha. You know, we're going to have breakfast for dinner this evening, real late dinner. But before we do that, we want to welcome in everyone listening on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, and the High Plains Talk Radio Network. Thank you so much for listening in wherever you are listening from. We also want to thank Ron Bumblefoot Thal, our guitar god, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. He creates the music that makes Spaced Out Radio Weekend rock, the official spacedoutradio.com music. Also, if you are a social media person, please check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Facebook, you can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on Radio Guide FM, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. And if you go to patreon.com, we have some cool offers for you, our listeners, there as well. Make sure you check those out. If you want to take part in the show, you'll have to sign into one of our chat rooms on Spreaker or on the chat room on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, for just $5 a month, you can become a Spaced Out Radio space traveler. We offer some decent swag, and as it's our opportunity to give back to you, we're happy to do it. We have a news section called The Encounter that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors, Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. You can check out Dave Scott's blog there as well. And if you've had an experience that you cannot explain and are still scratching your head about it and maybe not feeling so great about it, or, you know, maybe just a little anxious or confused, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Smith, is ready to find out what's going on and help you with it. And he will also keep all of your information 100% confidential, because we know that is very important. All of you folks out there who are listening tonight, I want to give a special thanks to our listener, Wyatt A. I'm not going to say his last name, but he comes into the chat room as Wyatt A. And I just want to say thanks for the idea, because I've had such a blast looking up mythical creatures and fairies. I mean, I got so stuck on fairies that we're really going to deal with what we know about fairies, what we know about fairy stories, and some of the history that you would not expect that comes up around fairy creatures, gnomes, house elves, hobgoblins, and all of that. Tonight I'm dealing a lot with, I'm going to do this as a two-parter because Wyatt has said that he's interested in some of the modern sources of information. But I think it's really important to look at what we have in terms of historical sources of information on fairies. I am a fairy experiencer. I am a tree spirit experiencer and a house. He's not a house elf. I'll call him a domovoi, a being who takes care, a domestic spirit experiencer. And as such, I have some experience with fairy creatures. They are not like aliens. It's interesting because I did a reading once, and this goes into my understanding of the fairy realm, which is relatively new for me. I mean, most of the things that I dealt with when I was younger, I was an animal communicator, so I was often dealing with animals, especially domestic animals, not so much wild animals because they're a little more circumspect and keep to themselves with their thoughts. But domestic animals, as a child, I knew that animal communication could be done because I had a horse that I communicated with. And as a child, I had this sense that there was more to Greek mythology and mythological beings like Hermes or Athena or Pegasus than anybody wanted to give credence to. I mean, we love Greek mythology, right? Who doesn't love Greek mythology? If you don't love Greek mythology, my opinion is you missed a gene when all the genes were recombining, because I think as a human being, Greek myths, all of the Greek stories of all of the gods and the goddesses and the things they did to each other and the great heroes, Odysseus, and I mean, oh my gosh, what's not to like? And just the wonderful, strong women, Athena. I mean, come on, what's not to like? She is the best. Is she not the best? She's the best. She hangs out with Hermes, who gives messages. He's the messenger. He's the best. And Dionysus, oh my God, that dude, hanging out with the fairies, drinking wine, partying. I mean, if that's not an idea of some heavenly realm, that you know, of fun and bliss and good humor, to have a Dionysian spirit or fairy around you is actually the best. One of my spirit guides, we call him Happy Dude, is actually very Dionysian. He's a party animal, but he's also very well read. He's very good with animals. He's very good with plants. He's very good with the healing aspects of things. Again, that's Dionysian, healing aspect, good with plants, good with animals, and ready to heal the spirits that are on the earth with the help from things that are on the earth. So that's kind of, when I started out, I used to read just the regular big volume. One of the first books I read, it was between the Black Stallion books, Walter Farley, who, if you get to the end of the Black Stallion books, this is an odd aside for fairies, Walter Farley was an alien experiencer. Now, and what happened was the last book that he wrote, in the Flame books, he was writing about aliens on that island where Flame was. And that was the last book he wrote, and he didn't write another Black Stallion book. I don't know if his publishers just got weirded out and said, what the is going on here, or if something else happened. Anybody who knows anything more about Walter Farley than I do, and when I was a kid, it was like I went slamming through the Black Stallion books. Other than the Black Stallion books, I was reading Greek mythology. So I would go out on my horse, who I had an animal communication link with, and I would sing to her about about Athena and about Hermes and about the Chimera and about Pegasus. And she especially loved Pegasus because that was about a horse with wings. And we would just ramble through the countryside singing and cantering and jotting and, I would talk to her about all I was reading about in Greek mythology. So I think there's something very primal and very basic in our needs to reconnect with the earth and reconnect with the spirits of the earth, regardless of the fact that most of us who are, for example, in Australia or Canada, and not all of us, but many of us are white Anglo-Saxon Protestants or some form of Christian, Mormon or what have you. We are some form of Christian. And we have, although we have people, who are Hindu and Muslim and everything else listening, and there's a tremendous cosmology of fairies and fairy stories in Muslim and Islamic literature, and there are tremendous cosmologies of fairies and earth spirit stories in Hindu literature and the proto-Hindu literatures. It just abounds in Buddhist literature. There are all sorts of, especially Tibetan, where before Buddhism became their thing, they were shamanistic. And so, their ministers and folk of before Buddhism were all familiar with spirits of the earth, with demons, with, wrathful deities who were demons who became helpers, et cetera, on and on. Here in the United States, Native American folklore is full of honoring of spirits, spirits of wells, spirits of places that provide things that people need, but also spirits of the sky, the great spirit, the spirit of the animals. So when we're talking about magical, mythical creatures and where to find them, you know what? Go out in your backyard and go in the middle of your house. It wasn't until 2008 when I moved up to Colorado and I was looking at the property that I was going to move into, which is up on Horsefly Mesa. And Horsefly Mesa was known by the local Ute tribe as a place where you would go up there to do midsummer, their big get-together was Bear Dance, which happened at a slightly lower elevation where the oak trees were. But when they did Sundance and when they got together for midsummer, that was up on Horsefly Mesa because you could see it was where Grandmother Water, their mythological creator being Grandmother Water, had created all the people and the earth. She had rolled back the waters to create this good earth. And from the top of Horsefly Mesa, you can see all of the western Colorado mountains all around you and mountains into Utah. The Abajos, the Elk, the Cimarron, the San Juans, and there's one more group, the Monte La Salle. And you can see Grand Mesa very easily. And so that was a sacred place. They would go up there, they would do their trading, they would have horse races, they would trade horses, they would have dances, they would have Sundance, they would have everything up on this sacred place, this belly button of the world on Horsefly Mesa. So I'm going up there and I'm like, okay, I'm aware that this is there. But what I wasn't aware of when I got to the property was that we had, the first time I got there, I go to a spring and the property had 9 springs that had been hollowed out to become tanks for the horses and cows and sheep that would come, across the land during the summer. And our horses were there all the time, my horses. And then, but I'm going to the first major, really cool spring. And there's a nice log to sit on. And I decide that when I get to that spring, I'm sitting there going, yeah, I think I want to stay. Look at this spring. Look at this pond from a spring. And as I'm sitting there deciding that I want to stay, I notice out of the corner of my eye some movement behind an aspen tree. And I'm looking at this movement, and this is with my mind's eye, but he caught my attention. And there is this little man who looks a bit like a gnome, but not quite because he has a flat cap. And he says to me, "What are your intentions here?" And it was like he was interviewing me because I was deciding to stay, but he was saying, "Oh no, you don't decide to stay. I decide whether I allow you to stay." I was being interviewed to see if I could stay. So I said, "Well, my intentions are to come and enjoy the woods and write a book and hang out with my horses." And he goes, "Do you intend to cut down any trees?" No, absolutely not. "Do you intend to harm any animals?" No, absolutely not. And then he said, "Wait a minute, you can see me." And I'm like, "Yes, I can see you." And then he went, "Harumph," and basically went behind the tree. And I could kind of hear him thinking about it. He comes back and he says, "Okay, you can stay." And it was like, who is this? What is this? What is that? Is that a gnome? Is that a goblin? What is that thing? And so, come to find out, on the property were fairies of the earth spirit kind of the animals and the plants. And then this guy who in Russian literature would be considered to be domovoi, a domestic spirit, a household spirit, or a protector of the property. And so he basically, if he liked you, good things happened for you and you were protected. And if he didn't like you, bad things happened to you and you weren't protected. Well, this is fairly important in a place like Horsefly Mesa because according to the Ute, it was populated by evil spirits in the winter. And really, basically, what that meant was that there was so much snow and there were so many snowstorms that you could get lost in, and then it was so hard, it was really impossible to walk through in the winter because you had a 6 to 8 foot base with 15 to 20 foot drifts. So, it's really not a good place to have to go through in the winter. You're really pushing your luck if you try to do it. You're going to get tired, you're going to get sweaty, you're going to get hypothermia. You really have to have luck or the spirits on your side to navigate that area. And so, well, I had passed the domestic household spirit test. My roommate, however, did not. I hope he's not listening to the show because he had a lot more bad luck than I did. and it wasn't always completely his fault, even though he owns the property. Anyway, I'm like, wow, I've never met anything like this. I didn't even know this existed, yet here I am talking to one of these. As I go along, we did find, especially as we moved in, we did find that there were some aspen trees that really needed to come down because they were basically probably going to fall in the house. And there had been some canker and some other things happening up there, and they had gotten sick and they had started to die. And a lot of them were dead or mostly dead near the house. And so because this domestic spirit said, "Do you intend to cut down any trees?" I contacted him, "Hey, guy that I saw out by the tree by the spring, would it be okay for us to cut down these trees over there?" And he was very grumpy and he said, "I don't know, ask the trees." And I went, okay. And I started to ask the trees. He said, "No, dummy, ask them individually." And aspen trees are a colony, but they have their own individualized spirits. And they don't individualize right away. It's after they become a certain size. When they're really small, they're still considered to be a root. So you can have a tiny aspen that's above ground. It's not individualized. It's the root of the parent. But at a certain age, like 2 or 3 years, they start to become individualized. Well, okay, who knew? I didn't know. So I asked the trees, each one, were they okay if we cut them down? And 2 were, and 2 weren't. They wanted to wait a little bit longer. They were still feeling like they had enough life in them. But the 2 that were like, yes, absolutely, we don't want to fall on your house and hurt you. So there's the thing that I've noticed about trees and tree spirits is they're very protective of people and animals and everything. They provide a lot of habitat for people, for animals, for birds, for little crawly critters. for bugs, for worms, for everything that lives. I mean, when a tree grows and it collects sunlight, it provides oxygen. When the bark starts to fall off, it gets bugs in it. That provides food for birds, etc., etc. And then when the tree falls down and it's decaying, it provides food. So a tree is one of the most nurturing spirits that you're ever going to find. And yes, there are tree spirits. So if you really want to find a spirit, an earth spirit, go to your closest tree. Go to your closest tree and give it thanks. And if it's something like an aspen where they're all a colony and they're connected at root, give thanks to all of them in the colony. Go to your nearest pine tree and give thanks. Pine trees are wonderful. They provide us with housing. They provide us with shelter. They provide all sorts of creatures with shelter and with food and with sap and etc. So if you really want to get in good with the earth spirits, the first thing I would say to you is go out and give your highest gratitude to the spirits of the trees. They are really good spirits, and they really do have a lot of feeling for all of the beings that they support, all of the animals that they support, and human beings who often overlook them and overlook how important they are, with the clear cutting and indiscriminately rearranging and that sort of thing. That's harmful and that's hurtful. So my experience is, yes, there are tree spirits. Devas. Devas came up when I started reading for people professionally in the early 2000s. I started finding that some of the guides that people had, especially gardeners, were devas of the flowers, or fairies of the flowers, if you want to put them that way. I call them devas because I sort of like the name devas better, or devas, if you want to say devas. I like divas, not the I'm so cool kind, but devas, however you want to pronounce that. They were coming to people who were gardeners, and they had a lot of information for their gardener charges. But it's always about love and beauty and harmony and balance, because these beings can also be healing through the essences of the flowers and the essences of the plants that the gardeners are working with. So if you meet somebody who is really great at making flower essences, a lot of times they're working with these spirits of the plants. If you meet a great herbalist, a lot of times these spirits of the plants are working with them. And it was probably way back in the old days that you would find the herbalists of the time, the women and the householders and the midwives of the time who were the healers, were actually working with the spirits of the plants in order to come up with remedies for people that worked. Now, here's where we get into an interesting dualism. And it comes about, and I don't know if it came about before, but it has to do with witch trials and what happened when King James got involved with Christianity. Scotland, Ireland, people are kind of aware of fairies, of earth spirits. They had been pagan. They've well become Christian. But as we go along, what we're seeing, and there are fairy stories everywhere, and there are people all across Europe and all across the world who have had dealings with earth spirits. But as we get into the era of King James, and he presents this Bible, and he has very strong belief, and he has very opinionated beliefs, he goes full warfare on fairies and earth spirits. And he writes a dissertation called Demonology. And he calls them illusory spirits or demonic entities that prophecy, consort, and transport individuals that they serve. And in medieval times, it was believed that a witch or a sorcerer would have a compact with a familiar spirit to serve them, who could receive types of revelations and use them to perform various tasks. There is one other Christian belief held at that time was that fairies were a class of demoted angels, and how, these angels revolted. God ordered the gates of heaven shut, and those still in heaven remained angels. Those in hell, demons, and those caught in between became fairies. I don't believe that. I think that's all Christian mythology. The other suggested that fairies, not being good enough, had been thrown out of heaven, but they were not quite evil enough for hell. And that may explain the tradition that they had to pay a tithe to get to hell as angels, but not quite devils. So again, there's another concept of this in Persian mythology, but to me, what this is saying is we have people who are healers, who are doing folk healing that with herbs and with the spirits of the earth, and who are listening to their spiritual guidance, who we don't like because this is not in line with what the prince, who later became the king, believes about Christianity, and also the Christian primacy of the king. So basically, you're a rebel if you're doing this. You're somebody who's not to be tolerated if you're doing this kind of healing and if you're working with the spirits. All of us here in King James's demonology, we would all be so far up the proverbial creek because we're interested in the subject, and because we go about. And I am a Christian. I'm a born-again Christian, but I've studied Buddhism and other things. But the fact of the matter is, I'd still be up the creek because we're studying this. So in demonology, this is the work of King James, who has given us our Bible, our modern Bible, or most of the basis of our modern Bibles that we see. It is actually a political and theological dissertation in the form of a philosophical dialogue between Philomathus and Epistemon, and they debate magic, sorcery, witchcraft, and demonology. And it seems to be that they want to do this to educate people on the study of witchcraft and inform the public about the histories and etymologies and all the subcategories involved in magical practices. And it also makes accusations against the practice of witchcraft and comparatively elaborates King James's views against papistry. Think about that for a second. All of a sudden, the Catholic Church is the church that is practicing witchcraft, is the church that is worshiping false idols, is the church that, you're evil if you go to. Why? Because it doesn't fit his views. So King James states that he chose to write the content to form a dialogue to better entertain the reader, but doing so, he follows a method that a lot of the writers of the time do. And in the plot, Philomathus hears in the kingdom regarding the rumors of witchcraft, which seems all miraculous and amazing, but he couldn't find anyone knowledgeable in the matter to have a political discussion on the issue. And he finds Epistemon, who is very knowledgeable on the topics and the theology. So, and Epistemon is the character from which we get epistemology, which is incredibly important to us as paranormalists. Why? Because we're fighting all the time with the current day worldview and the epistemologies of science. Well, we're not fighting, but we're fighting with skeptics. We're fighting, say you're an alien experiencer and you've got, a police report, you've got multi-witness sightings of something that's happened to you, et cetera, on and on. And you've also got all of these other experiencers who report having similar experiences. And say this is back in the 90s, before a lot of this information got out and before this is the internet. The people who are studying this are doing good science in the area, for example, and a lot of people who study fairies and stories of fairies, like the actual fae in Ireland and the actual earth spirits and little people, are doing good research in this area, but it's not accepted because it doesn't fit the modern day epistemology, the scientific epistemology of the day. So as paranormalists, we're in the same boat. we're not accepted because what we're doing doesn't fit the modern day epistemology. So in this book, in demonology, King James basically sets the stage for Scotland's witch trials. And he gets into all of the things that you couldn't do that would make you considered to be a witch, which is necromancy, use of charms, circles, conjurations, astrology, comparisons between the miracles of God and the devil, difference between biblical proof and imagination of myth. And he's trying to be very scientific here. What's interesting is he's using the Bible as his science. And I'm not going to say anything more about that because skeptics use science as their Bible. And the description of sorcery and its comparison with witchcraft and the path of the sorcerer's apprenticeship and curses and roles of Satan, devils, etc., on and on. And then he talks about the spirits and the trouble houses, that trouble houses are solitary places. So, for example, Horsefly Mesa, where I lived with the tree spirits and the domovoi and the devas, spectra. They'd be considered spectra. Obsession, used to describe spirits that follow certain people to outwardly trouble them at various times of the day, incubi or succubi. Possession, used to describe spirits that enter inwardly into a person to trouble them. Fairies, used to describe illusionary spirits that prophecy, consort, and transport their servants. So basically, if you're working with a fairy, instead of them, or a deva, and you're doing healing, well, say your cure is a prophecy, all of a sudden, you're no longer a good Christian. I've seen these guys. I'm a good Christian in the sense that, I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. So even so, would have been burned, not so good. And, glad we don't live back then. That's really all I can say, because fairies and demons, oh my goodness, they were right up there together with, I don't know what else, bad stuff. So, moving on from that, we're getting toward the modern age in the 1900s, and all of a sudden, we have coming into the picture some Christian apologist writers who are very interested in fairies. And two of the most famous from the 1900s are Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. And C.S. Lewis was a big Christian apologist. He had been an atheist. He had been interested in the occult. From reading his biography, I'm quite clear, or I feel quite clear as an animal communicator, to think that C.S. Lewis was a natural animal communicator. And the reason I say that is that he had a dog when he was young, and the dog died, and the dog's name was Jaxie. And when the dog died, he told people that no, he wasn't what his name was. He said, I'm Jaxie. And all the rest of his childhood, he became interested in how animals were like people, or books about anthropomorphized animals. But really, literally, if you're an animal communicator and animals are talking to you, they're talking to you in in your voice, in your head, and their feelings and the things that they go through, because we are mammals, are very, very similar. So I don't think he was actually anthropomorphizing animals or into that. I think he was actually a communicator and had been from a young child. What is very interesting to him, he was exceedingly sensitive to the point when they tried to send him to school, he didn't do well. He had social issues in school, and so they had to take him out of school because it was too much for him, and he studied with tutors and became incredibly brilliant in the process, because that's what he was. He became also interested in, originally atheism combined with the study of the occult. explain to me how that would happen any place but in England where there are fairies. And he began to love Norse mythology, Greek literature, the myths, mythology. And he loved it so much he got a scholarship to Oxford. And then he ended up in war. And during the war, his atheism was just reinforced, that for whatever reason, he didn't want to have anything to do with Christianity, probably because everybody was praying and getting blown up. So, I'm just assuming. When he got out of the war, he became very interested in Yeats, and Yeats was an Irish, and C.S. Lewis was Irish. Yeats was Irish, C.S. Lewis was Irish, and Yeats was always writing about fairies. He was very influenced by fairy stories and wrote poetry about fairies, and he was Irish. So there's this deep love of the fae, of the earth spirits, of the spirits of the land that is kind of permeated in Yeats, but it's talking about something that is insanely Irish. So, he ends up writing books about Narnia. He ends up writing about aliens in Perelandra. He ends up writing about aliens in the Screw Tape Letters. And I would say to anybody who's interested that there's some good information, like C.S. Lewis. I always wondered if he was an abductee because the main character in Perelandra is abducted. How'd that happen? And, Venusian aliens in Screw Tape Letters and demons, etc., and on and on. So anyway, personally, getting back to my personal story, I was really interested. I had seen some mountain fairies in New Mexico before I went up to Colorado. And when I was up in Colorado, because I was living with this household spirit and the devas and the tree spirits, I had a sitting with my roommate's mother, who had been a Bible teacher, a Bible studies teacher in the Southern Methodist Church. But she was a Christian who is a Christian that really loves everybody. She's interested in the world, interested in what happened in the world, and really had this great love and compassion for everybody. And she used to teach adult Bible study class, and she used to teach about C.S. Lewis. And so she had Parkinson's, and we became connected when she was still alive, when I was doing healings for her and sittings for her, a sitting for her especially, where she was able to talk to her son to tell her what her situation was in the hospital. And then she became somebody who had come back from time to time that we could sit with. Well, I asked her what she knew, if she knew if C.S. Lewis knew about fairies. And she said, oh, yeah, we have a C.S. Lewis Society in heaven. And we discuss this all the time. And she said, there are phase-shifted realities on the planet Earth. So, for example, if your typical Earth phase is, say, a keyboard on a piano, and you've got all the notes on the keyboard, and that's presenting to you energetically your solid physical matter. If you, instead of going half notes, whole note, half note, whole note, half note, etc., up the scale, if you go a quarter shift between the whole note and the half note, if you go a quarter up, or a whole tone, half tone, etc., so C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, etc., you're going up a half step. If you go a quarter step up, you get to the fairy realm. And I was like, literally, that's it? She goes, yeah, that's it. So you're living on Earth with beings that are living on Earth with you that you don't normally see because your energy doesn't match enough for you to see each other. And I'm like, seriously? She's like, yeah, they're not spirits. They're not disembodied. They actually have a physical reality that is a quarter step phase shifted from yours. And to me, I thought about it because it went back to what I had been told in my alien abduction experiences about what we're doing to this planet. That there's much more going on here on this planet with lots of different beings than we suspect or that we allow ourselves to be present with. But when she said that, I said, oh my gosh, if they're connected with us by this phase shift, this quarter step phase shift, then they're energetically connected with all of our plants, with all of our habitats, with whether or not we pollute the planet, with whether or not we blow ourselves up with a nuclear weapon, et cetera, on and on, with whether or not we let bad aliens take over, for example. They are all connected with that as we are. And so, in a sense, what I'm getting back to is this idea of, in the Bible, it says something about human dominion over the planet. Well, it's actually, we are really meant to be the caretakers of this planet, and we're not doing a very good job of it. And so when other beings like aliens come through and say, what are you doing to the planet? Hello, hello, hello. And then you also look around and you're seeing that there's this whole other world that is a quarter step phase shifted. And there's probably another one on the other quarter step that I don't even know what to talk about that. Then you realize if we have dominion over this whole situation, we have this tremendous responsibility to get our act together. And we're not doing it. We're not doing it very well at this point, in my opinion. But it is a learning curve for us to get our act together, to be aware of what our connections are, and that they're not just with each other on this planet, but they're with other phase-shifted realities that are existing at the same time, basically in the same place with us, like the realm of the fairies, like the realm of the domestic servants, like the domestic spirits, etc. They're here with us at this time, but we are the ones who decide what happens here through our free will. And this gets back to Christian apology again. And I think there's a place for it and it's interesting that Christian apologists are often people who have been interested in the paranormal and in psychical research. So that's my whole spiel on C.S. Lewis and his friend J.R. Tolkien. We can go into that. I really want to get into who they were influenced by, which is Andrew Lang. And Andrew Lang, for his time period, did a tremendous job he was an anthropologist and he was a wonderful writer, but he's actually most known for his fairy story books. And they're called the Rainbow Fairy Story books, and you should Google him because he was so prolific. Man, I can't imagine writing so much or making so many compendiums of such research before the internet. I mean, this is like in 1889. So his first book, the Blue Fairy book, was about, it had tales from the Brothers Grimm, Madame d'Aulnoy, Arabian Nights, Norwegian fairy tales. And that's the one most of us are most familiar with. And the Red Fairy book had French, Russian, Danish, Romanian, and Norse mythology in it. And then and he goes through all these colors. The Green Fairy book had Spanish and Chinese. The True Story book had stories drawn from European history. The Yellow Fairy book had Hans Christian Andersen tales in it. The Red True Story book talked about the Joan of Arc and the Jacobite uprising and had some tales from those time periods. The Animal Story book talked about animals and fairy stories. The Pink Fairy book, Japanese, Scandinavian, and Sicilian tales. So some of these are all for children, and in a lot of the adult books, there was a lot more magic. There was a lot more fairy. There was a lot more mythical creature. And actually Lang is faulted by Tolkien as taking out the magic because it's for children. And so when Tolkien writes about The Hobbit, and he's talking about adults having a need for magic in the world, he's writing it based on the fact that people were reading these books about fairies or fairy stories with the magical fairiness taken out of them by Lang. So he's actually quite upset about the fact that there's no epistemological allowance for the magic of fairies and the magic of mythology. And it is something that we need, because it keeps us open. I believe that what we read as children, what we read as adults, even if it sounds completely fantastical, it keeps us open to the possibilities of what is going on, what our reality is. It opens us up to the possibility of a broader and a wider worldview. And I'm right there with Tolkien. So if you want to read some interesting stuff, go about fairies, but also about the people who have sort of set our background for the modern day fairy information that we have. We're talking about Andrew Lang, we're talking about C.S. Lewis, we're talking about Tolkien. And, we could say that fairies are Celtic, or that, they come from France. But the fact is that there are earth spirits and devas and deities and demons everywhere across the entire planet. There is no society, there is no group of people that does not talk about these. And when you think about how far back that goes, pre-Christian, way pre-Christian, Egyptian, etc., when you think about how far back that goes, to me that always says, okay, there's something here. Because why do we have a whole species of human beings who believe in these creatures that they can't see all the time, or they don't have any actual reference to? Why would you make up a story about something that you have no reference to whatsoever? Somebody had, and then you'll find people experiencing Domovoy. Some people have really conflicted, like with their house spirits. They're conflicted with their house spirits. If you are one of these people, wine and chocolate helps, and then saying, Master, please take care of the house while I go, and giving thanks to your house spirit is a good thing to do. I'm just saying, if you are one of these people. Okay, moving on now. I want to go back to Ireland, and I'm going to continue on tonight with some writings about, tomorrow night, with some writings about fairies and giving more of an information on people that you can check out who are writing lately about fairies and mythical beings. But one of our most beloved writers, who we Americans, and I don't know about Canadians, maybe overlook some, is Yeats, who wrote a lot of fairy-derived poetry, and Irish, but fairy interested. And I had something up here to read to you. Okay, this is short and it's sweet. And it's kind of to me, this speaks to what being somebody who is interested in the paranormal can get trapped in, is when we have these ideas of definitions of what our magical, mythical creatures are. We can objectify them, we can dream about them, we can imbue them with qualities that perhaps they don't have. We can get very wrapped up in them as our helpers and our healers. And there are some things sometimes that, a good smack of the head with some good Buddhism or some good Christianity can help us do when we may be working with fairies or devas or spirits, which is to not make them into gods, to not make them sort of all-consuming. If you're a great healer with plants and flowers, and the fairies help you make flower essences or something else, or the devas do. They're not gods. You're not their servant. They're not your god.
It's really important to keep that in mind. But it's also important to keep in mind anything that you really have a passion about, whether it's a person, whether it's a subject, whether you're involved in working with aliens, for example, and you want to know all the different species and what they're doing here. It's really important not to get overly attached to the object of your interest. And the reason that I'm saying that is that your over-attachment can lead sometimes to you objectifying your object of your interest or having turning it into its own fantasy mythical creature with your definitions. And again, that's whether it's a person. For example, Joe Algeier with his hair. I have all of these ideas about Joe Algeier and what he's about. Literally, when I probably meet him, we'll go, oh my God, I don't even like you. But the fact of the matter is, he is a mythical fantasy person for me. Not in that way, but just it's like, wow, that's like another cool guy who lives up with critters like I did. He must be really cool. I have to be very careful about that. You have to be careful about that with people. You have to be careful about that with aliens. Oh, the Pleiadians, they're going to come save us. They're like the greatest thing, and we're all going to move. I had a Native American tell me that they would not be moving us to another planet, and he was talking about the Pleiadians. Well, he's like, they'll be moving our children. Well, I have children who live with the Zayton mixed group. They're not Pleiadians. And yeah, they're not on the planet. So in that way, he's right. But this idea that some group is going to come in and they're going to be our saviors or they're going to be our gods, you got to watch out for that. So watch your dreams. Watch what you make into a mythical, magical fantasy creature. Be aware of what's around you. If you want to get to know devas or earth spirits or fairies, practice your meditation so your mind is clear. And look at what you're afraid of. My sister is a wonderful medium, and she came up to the ranch on Horsefly Mesa to visit me. And because she was spending the night in the little cabin, the guest cabin where she was staying, the aspen trees got upset because they didn't know what she was about, and they were worried that she might want to chop them down or hurt them. And so she finds herself in this little guest cabin. It's only 10 by 10. With this aspen tree spirit going, who are you? And what are you doing here? And what do you want? And her first, because she's still fearful, even though she's talented, her first thought is, oh my gosh, there's a demon in the cabin with me. And I go into the cabin, I'm like, no, it's not a demon. It's just a very frightened tree spirit. It doesn't mean you any harm. Just tell it, he wants to know why you're here. And she goes, well, I'm here to enjoy the wilderness. And I said, do you have any interest in cutting down aspen trees? And she says, absolutely not. I don't. And I said, well, good. Then, and I said to the tree spirit, you okay with that? She goes, yeah. Are you sure she's okay? And I'm like, yeah, she's fine. And they were fine together, and she felt protected in her cabin. So anyway, about dreams and making mythical and fantasy creatures, before I leave you, I want to read a little bit of Yeats and about the things that we are so interested in that we want to have. Say you want to meet an alien, or you want to meet a fairy, or you don't want to meet a gnome, or you do want to meet a gnome. What you dream about and what you imagine and what you have dreams of. This is from Yeats. It's not really about fairies, but I like it. It's called 8 Wishes for the Cloths of Heaven. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, and wrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half-light, I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. So, that is Yeats. It is a well-felt sentiment for us who love the paranormal, who love beings and magical mystery creatures of the paranormal, but also a good reminder that if you are too attached to your idea about something and it becomes a dream to you, that you're very likely to have it tread upon. So stay open, stay as objective as possible, and don't get too hung up in your own dreams, whether they're of fairies, aliens, people, utopia, a land of eagleless people, etc., etc., on and on. This is Elizabeth Anglin. I am your host of Cosmic Passport. I've been talking nonstop for, 50 minutes. I'm going to go and turn this over to James Tyson. If you need me for a reading, emotion code clearing, and animal communication, I am at elizabethanglin.com, and you can email me at info@elizabethanglin. You guys, I love you. I will see you tomorrow night. Take care.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, News Director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com. It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners, for only $5 a month you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
It's time to go live on Spaced Out Weekend.
13, please. Oh, hi, Kevin. Oh, is that the time? Kevin, my friend, don't you find that watch just a little bit loud? Well, I certainly hope our buddy Bumblefoot is playing when we get there. Oh, you stinky big bundle of hair. I said Bumblefoot, not Bigfoot. Oh, it's going to be a long night.
It's time to head to the 13th floor of the old log cabin for Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson. You can tweet James at James Tyson SOR. You can find him on Instagram, Spaced Out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
And now, perched high in his captain's chair, way above the clouds, here's James Tyson.
Thank you, David, and welcome everyone to Spaced Out Weekend. It is just me, that plain old James Tyson, talking to you from the 13th floor of my little log cabin on the wonderful, wonderful paranormal darkness of Cascadia, here in the Pacific Northwest, up here in the rainforest, which wasn't too bad today, as I got my oldest daughter onto the stage and picked up her diploma and graduating from the 12th grade and moving on to university, and was so proud of her. And until there was another kid there who got about $91,000 in awards and bursaries, and basically picked Princeton she could go to. And I keep looking at my daughter going, come on, you could have done something fancy like that, couldn't you? And then I realized no, because my daughter is just like me. So it was quite wonderful, though, to get number one out the door, now working on number two to get out of the door. And other than that, sold my house. Everything's going just ducky here in the Pacific Northwest on those paranormal portals of the lower left Canadian coast up here in Cascadia. And tonight is going to be kind of interesting because we have Skeeter Welhouse, who is our favorite little psychic and who had died 3 weeks ago, but she's feeling better now. Actually, I shouldn't say that. She's really not feeling good tonight. She's, imagine her all bundled up in blankets and a little fire going and one of those little ice packs on her head with the thermometer out of her mouth. And yeah, that's what Skeeter's doing tonight. She is under the weather. She's had a very interesting week, and I'm going to mention that. I'll talk about it when she does come back in here, because it was a bit of an excitement where she's working in Tacoma, Washington, as doing her full-time psychic gig. Now, tonight I want to talk about demons. Now, it's demons and demonology and things like that. I've had demonologists on, and to them, every ghost is a demon. And that actually comes back, and it's the basis for that is many, many hundreds of years ago, in the Catholic Church, there was a fellow who decided that any ghost or any spirit was a demon. There's a lot of background to demons themselves. If you think back, or not, you don't have to think back unless you're an ancient Greek, but kind of what we're talking about with Elizabeth Anglin in the first hour. But the word demon is actually originally from the Greek word daemon, and it wasn't negative at all. In fact, was originally understood to mean, to be good and to share. Eventually, as religions kind of grew, the translation kind of changed. Demon is considered more of an unclean spirit or a fallen angel. or a spirit of unknown type. And even in the Bible, I think it's mentioned 63 times, but nowhere in the Bible it says where a demon comes from. So is a demon actually a being, like an angelic being, or is it what we have understood in the paranormal to be actually something like an elemental, something that has existed on Earth for many, many, many centuries before man was here? Those things that kind of exist outside of our vision in a parallel universe as it is. In the Jewish religion, a demon was any god outside of the Hebrew lands. So all the other gods were to them demons. We've all being different areas on Earth have taken different ways, and different religions have looked at what we call demon differently. Nigeria, and it has been up to in the last 10 or 15 years, if you were to give birth to twins, one of them, I believe, had to be killed, and you place them in the bush outside the village. That was considered having a demon birth. Things have changed. We would look at things like, there are things in Egypt on the side of a tomb, and they were the gods in Egypt. Well, that one person's god is another person's demon. In Mesopotamia, the human-headed winged bull, that was the demon that created storms and changed. It's a weather-related demon. So many different demons. There was a scientist or a demonologist or a religious investigator back a few hundred years ago who broke down the realm of demons, and that was part of the realm of the angels, and it just broke down into about 7 or 8 different realms of angels, and the very end one, the very last, the lowest one, was just called angels, and they got higher after that, and the demons were up a bit higher. So it's relevant to the power of what you perceive the demon has. Again, it's a translation of a Greek word that was used by the people who were translating the books that were placed in the book we call the Bible. And is it an accurate description of the entity, the malevolent entity that we today call a demon? Now, Skeeter Welhouse, and if you've listened to the show before, you know Skeeter Welhouse is a wonderful psychic, spirit medium, and she is somebody that I have a lot of faith in and a lot of trust in her opinion. Skeeter told me that one of her first, if not her first, spirit guide was a demon. Now, we say, well, that's kind of weird. But, it's we have the way a pagan looks at a demon, the way a Christian looks at a demon, the way the Christian religions break down themselves on demons, the way a Protestant looks at it, the way a Catholic, the way a Jew looks at a demon. We all look at it through a different filter. That filter being the text or the teaching that our religion follows. Skeeter, I'm going to get you to come in if you can. Could you just do me a favor and grab both of the wheels on your wheelchair, that old wooden wheelchair, move it over from the fire.
I'll scooch over.
You'll scooch over? Oh, yeah. How you feeling, kid?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good for the most part.
I'm doing pretty good. Oh, look, my spleen. The heck? And I need to talk to you about what happened the other day. I got a text from you saying, I'm a little shaken up right now. We had a knife pulled on us. So articulate for me and the listener, what the heck were you doing? When you're a jet all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day. Sorry, one little West Side Story on you. What were you doing to have some Yahoo show you his steel?
I told him to. So basically, where we're at, we're in a stairwell that leads from one street to another street. And we have a group of homeless guys that we're used to having. And being that it was the full moon, we had extras. This one came out of nowhere, was about to punch one of our favorites, ones that we look out for. And I told him to stop, to get away, or we were calling the cops, because this was a place of business. He looked at me, started coming at me. I told him, don't you dare come up these steps. He started coming up the steps. I was going to grab my phone. Next thing I know, my friend pushed me as the homeless guy rushed with his knife out. And then she got yanked by our friend who was with us. And then as she was falling back, she pushed him as the homeless guy with the knife went for him. She screamed, run. I'm grabbing the phone, calling the cops, telling him I'm calling the cops. I've got the cops on the phone. I'm giving them a description. I'm telling them who he is, where he is, what he's doing. He's running his knife along his throat, threatening to kill me. Our male friend makes a gesture. The homeless guy goes up after him. I'm like, I've got the cops on the way. He throws his knife to the side because he knows the cops are coming. Our wonderful male friend has now, at this point, run up the stairs, around the corner, and gone out of harm's way. I'm chasing the crazy homeless guy who just threatened to kill me up the stairs on the phone with the cops, giving them a description. Because I'm just as crazy as they are, obviously. And we were able to give the cops full description, total information about him. We were able to tail him for a while so that they knew where to look for him. The cop explained to me that while it's admirable to look out for our regulars, next time go into our shop, lock the door, and call the cops from inside.
Yes. And for all of you other people out there, you never tell the bad guy you're calling the police.
Yes.
You never do that.
But normally this works. Normally when they start arguing, we go, hey, this is a place of business, stop it, or we're going to call the cops. They normally chill. This one just happened to
be cranky.
Be a special breed. And it was far more entertaining than it should have been.
Yes, far more entertaining. The easiest thing to do now in the 21st century is to say, you know you're on video right now, don't you? And then you shut the door, lock yourself in, and call the police. There's a guy acting out with a weapon. You live in a country of guns. So smarten up. That's all I'm telling you. So...
But I used to deliver newspapers in an area known as the war zone, and I used to have to be able to physically defend myself against people who would jump me. So for me, I mentally went back into that place. And everybody was
kung fu fighting. All of a sudden,
So very different, but slight flashbacks, and I didn't have my guillotine there, so I couldn't throw them in the trunk and chop them. No, I'm not making a joke of that. My car is literally a guillotine. It's actually nicknamed the Guillotine. Oh. And when someone would try to mug me while I was on the paper route, I normally had the trunk up so I could get the papers out of the trunk. So I tossed my wallet and keys in the trunk. They'd go for them, and then I'd drop the trunk. The trunk has a 20-pound bike rack on it, so when I dropped it... So the car is named the Guillotine.
Yeah. Speaking of demons... Oh, no.
Takes one to know one.
I only kill people that I know. Delivering papers to a neighborhood where people don't read. Way to go.
Yeah.
So, Skeeter.
Well, you got to roll your stuff in something, you know.
Roll your stuff. I want to tell you. Skeeter, some of the weirdest things have popped up on Spaced Out Weekend and Spaced Out Radio. And I don't mean Dave Scott. Well, yeah, actually, yeah. Yeah, okay. The weirdest things have popped up, including Dave Scott and myself. When we talk about demons, this really has a split in the listeners' minds. Whether it's, my cousin's got the cold, it must be a demon. That's a very old, back in the Dark Ages when any human being had human issues like mental health issues and things like that. It was a demon. Yes. And they had to pull the demon out of this person. But you go far back. In Hebrew, the word they use for demons means messenger. So many other Islamic traditions, they were connected directly to the god. It wasn't a negative at all. But
no.
Even like I was saying in Greek, it means spirit, supernatural being, messenger. But it's always it's been connected to evil.
Well, this is going to sound corny, and it's kind of meant to, but demons have been demonized in our society. And, I really didn't put a whole lot of thought into it until my senior year in high school. I had an amazing English teacher who assigned a research paper. He wanted us to have the experience of writing a paper that would be expected in college. And I chose the topic of demons. I was already a special kid, so the teacher rolled with it. And one of the things, when I started really researching demons, I found an amazing book up in the attic of our school library, so to speak. It was in the back, tucked away. We called it the attic, but it was just, the storage. And it was one of those books that was supposed to be banned. And in it, I read about how demons are nothing more than fallen angels. And the guy went into great detail about the hierarchy of angels.
Right.
Not so much as per the Bible, but kind of an overall pulling on all the religions, from jinns and genies and the Christian, Judeo, Islamic, Hindu, even the Valkyries and whatnot. He really went into detail about what we consider to be holy and light beings. And these hierarchies of angels, and how if we flip it onto the shadow side. And when I say shadow side, I don't mean the dark side. We all have a side of us that we don't always share, that we don't always want exposed. It's not necessarily bad. It's just something we don't want flaunted. And that's kind of what your shadow these shadows are. For those of you who are into totems, we have our totem animals, and then we have our shadow totems. There's black magic, there's white magic, there's these, but they're not necessarily good or bad, they just are. Mm-hmm. When you flip the hierarchy of angels to the shadow side, all of a sudden it makes sense. These are shadow angels. And as you said before, my first guide was a demon. He wouldn't give me his name. He said his name had too much power. I didn't quite understand that. I was still really way too young to comprehend that. But he allowed me to give him a name, and I named him Zafir. And Zafir taught me a lot of really neat things that, things that we consider dark, things that we consider scary, aren't really scary. They're only scary because we give them the power to be scary. We give them the power to hold fear over us. We give them the power to manipulate us in darkness. We do that. Not them. We do.
Yeah.
And we started reading this hierarchy and flipping it on the shadow, as the author of this book explained. And I started reading other books that, talked along the same lines. And I started reading books where we talk about how scary demons are and how bad they are and the things they do. And if you looked at the psychology of it, a lot of what these things were drawing out of us were more our shadow sides, our naturally already pre-existent shadow sides. So it's kind of like, all right, so these are Alice in Wonderland, Alice through the looking glass type of reflections, these bizarre, contrary whys. And as I worked more with these thoughts and was putting them into this paper, it did get around school that I was studying demons, but for a lot of my friends, like, yeah, that's the witch, duh. For a lot of others, being in a very Catholic community, I really got a lot of crap for it. But my teacher, God love him, I loved Mr. Maribal. He was an amazing, encouraging teacher, and he encouraged me to finish the paper. And when it was done, I didn't speak of evil. I didn't speak of damnation. I didn't speak of any of the things that you would normally expect. Instead, I spoke of how these things are a reflection of each other and how they are just different frequencies being played out.
Yeah.
Different frequency energy. And, I really want people to kind of follow me on this one, because years later, people ask me if I believe in demons, and I do, but not in the same sense as we in the modern world apply the word demon. I believe demons are just things of this lower frequency that have the ability to rise to a higher frequency. And I learned how to work with that. And doing the work I do, seeing what it is that I see it a lot. I was given an opportunity to really test how well I learned this lesson many years ago. Let's see here, my daughter's 12, so it would have been about 9 years ago that I was really tested. Could I practice what I preached? No, I couldn't. I failed epically. This thing, we call it Apartment F. My whole family ended up in therapy over this apartment. It was, I let my fear, I let my anger, I let that dark side. And this is what I really want people to understand, is that when we allow our fear and our anger and our stress and everything else get the best of us, we tend to open the door for these things. We tend to feed them these things. That's why when you talk to someone who works in the paranormal field, they tell you to be careful because these things feed on depression. They feed on hate. They feed on anger. They feed on lust. These extreme emotions. If you can find a way to not feed that, then you're not feeding them anymore. And if you listen to the psychology of that, if you temper your anger, if you acknowledge your sadness, if you figure out what it is that you're lusting for, why does it have to be lust? Why do you need to lust for something or someone? You're acknowledging the parts of you that need light.
Oh, I get you.
So all of a sudden you're flipping it. You're feeding this thing because you're angry. Well, let's flip that. Why are you angry? Why is it that this thing's able to trigger this anger? Why are you angry? I knew if I had known then what I know now, I would have been able to tell you I was beyond pissed at the time. I was beyond words pissed because I was finally figuring out I had to put myself second in order to grow my husband, in order to grow my daughter. I was having to put my own dreams on hold.
Mm-hmm.
My husband was going through a lot of changes. And so you had two people who had a lot of fear and a lot of angst playing off of each other. We were both blaming each other for things. So this thing played out in him, and it played out in me. And it played out through our daughter. It was playing on her fears as she saw her mom and dad fighting.
Interesting.
When I finally confronted this thing, when I finally was able to pull my family out of this situation, this thing, it was really funny because I was going to leave my husband. I was going to leave him. I told myself I'm leaving him. I'm just going to walk away. I'm going to take my daughter. I'm going to make sure everything plays out, and I'm going to make sure he suffers, and I'm leaving. As I packed the last box and my dad loaded it on the truck, and I had my daughter down at my parents' house, I felt Zafir around me go, "You failed." And I couldn't understand how I had failed. And as I was looking around, it suddenly dawned on me what I had done. I had given in to the darkness. I had given into my own darkness, my own fears, my own hate, and this thing was feeding off of it. It was growing off of it. It's like when you feed a white carnation red dye, the carnation becomes red. And all of a sudden, I remembered what I had learned, and I flipped it. I went ahead, and I didn't leave my husband. I went to the marriage counseling. I even got my husband out of that horrid apartment and moved him into a safer one. He treated me like crap the whole time, but that's okay. I knew what I had to do. And I would bring our daughter over to visit him, and I would come over by myself, and I would be around his space, and all of a sudden it felt safe again. And it dawned on me that I had to grow up, and I had to start changing things. About 5 years later, I was given the opportunity to face another demon. And this one I knew. This one I had a name for, I had a history with, and she was doing a lot of harm. And this one had haunted me since she had died, and I was a little kid. She was even alive. She was terrifying. And I sat there, my daughter downstairs, my husband downstairs, my grandparents downstairs. And I sat on the stairs in the dark with this thing, knowing it was there. And I was playing on her field, and instead of, usually when I went to visit, I would tell her, if you dare come down those stairs, I swear to God, I will rip you to shreds. I will use every gift I have to destroy you. And that night, I sat there with her, and I said, I get it. I get that you're feeding on my fears, that you relied on the fears of others to make you strong, that you relied on their greed, on their insecurities to do what you did. I did it too. And I gave her forgiveness. I switched her from being the demon into a human, into a spirit, into something that wasn't what we had demonized her to be. Okay. Then I saw a human who had done horrid, horrid things cross into the light and thank me for finally seeing her for who she was. As I laid in bed that night, Zafir came to me and he said, you passed. And as I watched him, this dark shadow that I had seen my whole life suddenly began to glow. Because he had taken the time to teach me how to see these dark things for what they were. Just a lower frequency in need of someone to help it rise up. All of a sudden, I got to see another angel. The first angel I saw was when my grandma died, and when Zafir rose to that higher level, because I finally got the lesson. It was like they said, okay, if you can wake this one up, we'll let you have your wings, we'll let you come back. And I saw him shift into this higher frequency. So now when people call me and tell me there's a demon in the house, I don't go to fight the demon. I'll joke and say I'm going to go fight it, because that's kind of what people expect. I'm the one who walks in with the big arms open, and I go after it with love. I now know that these things, whatever they are, because of their darker frequency, their lower frequency, if you can figure out what it is that's holding it at that darker frequency, that lower frequency, and flip it, if you can figure out what's going on with the people who are in the house, why are they feeding this? Why are they allowing this to feed? I mean, you meet these people and they go, oh my God, my husband's such a wonderful person. He'd never hurt a fly, and last week he punched so-and-so and we swear it was the devil. What's going on in his life? Why was there something in him that allowed that to play up on it? You would be amazed that when you take the time to do the interviews, when you take the time, and especially with my gifts, because I get that extra insight, you find out why they allowed themselves to be lowered to that lower frequency. And once you start flipping the people, you start flipping the house, you start flipping that entity. And before you know it, it either freaks out and it leaves because it's not ready to be changed, which any human would do if they're not ready to be changed. These things are just the same. If they're not ready to be changed, they're going to flip and they're going to leave. But if they're ready to be changed, if they're ready to be raised to that higher level, hell, if they're even ready to be crossed, I will sit there and I will do it. I will sit there and help them change over and raise them up and cross them over if that's what they want. So when I leave a house, I leave with people smiling and hugging and laughing. And that's how I know I did my job.
And you did this most of last week, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a case last week where I got to do that. And we had an incident last night where I had to work and do that. So this last week has been really way more entertaining than it should be.
When you say you had an incident, without telling us about your clients, what kind of incident?
Earlier this week, I had an individual who believed they were cursed, who believed someone or something was coming in dream form and messing with them, making them a worse person, stealing all their joy, all their happiness, the house, everything. They were getting scratches. There were all these things happening, these poltergeist type things, these, the scratch, the mark of the 3 that you hear about, and, oh my God, look, it's a scratch and it's 3, which is the sign of, no, it's, do you know how much energy it takes to get a scratch on someone?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, go chase someone, reach out and try to scratch them. You're not always going to get 5. You may get 1, you may get 2, you may get 3. But this person, for them, this darkness was invoked by a curse. And the thing is, a curse is 95% mental. If I can get you to believe you're cursed, it's really funny. Our subconscious is a real booger.
Booger?
A booger. I censored myself.
Okay, you little bugger. I was reading about some demons too, and they were, again, back in the Dark Ages, people, all you had to do is tell somebody, oh my God, you've got a demon. And
yes,
their health crashed and their mental state diminished, and you could almost kill them by telling them there was a demon with them.
Exactly. And 95% of the time it was mental. But let's put this in a different scenario. James, I'm going to give you permission by telling you that there's something really bad in you. And because of this bad thing, you're subconsciously going to give yourself permission to start behaving in the worst ways possible.
Okay.
As you start acting out, what's going to happen to your health and your physical self? As you subconsciously have given yourself permission now that I've told you there's a demon in you, that there is a curse of bad luck upon you.
Well, it'd be stress, and there'd be a lot of inward thinking about, okay, what's the bad part? And then so I would turn inside myself and start putting a wall up around me. And if I couldn't find it, then it would add to stress. And it would change my personality eventually.
Yeah.
And then if I did do something that someone didn't like, I would assume that's what, the devil made me do it kind of thing.
Yeah. And just think about it. When you're in a good mood and you trip over the sidewalk, But if you're in a bad place and you trip over that sidewalk and you fall, oh, fuck, it's got me.
Hey, excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Which is French for seal for everybody out there.
I apologize.
It is the French word for seal. So, seal. I tripped over something and
Yeah.
What? How am I going to do this one? Hey, the same thing, if you're in a hurry to get somewhere, your stress level's a bit higher, you have a little bit of anxiety, and somebody cuts you off in traffic, and the lights aren't changing the way you want them to change, and the parking spot is not where you wanted it to be. These are all evil things that are done against you, because everything out there is against me. Well, how arrogant is that? It's like, it's my wedding day. Oh, it's raining. I'm cursed. Yes, because it's raining on 2/3 of the state, but you think it's all about you.
Yeah.
It's get over yourself.
And here's another thing that plays into it, and it's a really great question from one of the rooms, and it's, do you think Hollywood images contribute to the belief in demons? Many people have been raised with very realistic images, sounds, and emotions related to this. This was even back then. You had in the churches, you had these paintings, these images that you would be shown, stories of scary things being told to you as a child. Hollywood has really amped up the image of what a demon is. And people are very easily manipulated.
It had actually dropped from popular culture probably in the 1920s up to the 1930s, 40s, and then in the 60s and 70s, it came back through literature, finishing off with a whole bunch of B movies and then The Exorcist. And it had a resurgence then. And we're riding still on the resurgence, and it's popped out again ever since these ghost television shows are on, because you still have that group in society who says all ghosts are demons. And really go back into, do some reading on I think it's hard to pronounce it, daemon, the Greek word for this. It was a intelligent being, and Socrates had a personal one, and he referred to it as the favor of the gods. Has given him a marvelous gift which has never left me since childhood. It is a voice which, when it makes itself heard, deters me from what I am about to do and never urges me on. And Socrates spoke familiarly. He spoke from that he was familiar to this thing, and joked about it, him obeying it blindly. But his friends kind of never did anything, they never bought a house or went on a flight without consulting Socrates, who then would talk to his demon about this.
Yeah.
And he wrote that he had sex with his demon too. Which is interesting. It is hard to know what order
but for him, it wasn't the same thing as what we would define by Hollywood standards, or even by Judeo-Christian standards or other standards. It was his own word for this being, and I think it's a lot similar to my own, in that it was just a being of a lower frequency. It was just as wise, just as intelligent as those of higher frequencies, but because it had to work in a lower field, it was a darker energy, and for him it wasn't bad. Remember, I said, just because I'm saying darker doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah,
it's just of that frequency. It just is.
Yeah, and looking back at Socrates and what Plato thought of that, we get them at birth and follows us in life and after death. And again, this is the name, the daimon, D-A-I-M-O-N, which has been translated into demon, which has received us as its guide.
But just think about
the ancient idea of this basically is the same as what we would call a guardian angel.
Yeah.
But again, It was that word that we get hung up on the word demon.
Yeah, we do. We hear that word, and being what we are, we get stuck on it.
Mm-hmm.
We get hung up on it. When I tell people my first guide was a demon, they freak out. They're going, "Oh my God, your guides can't be demons. Guides can't be bad." And I'm like, okay, first off, yeah, that's nice and happy, joy, but seriously, take a breather and understand this thing, whatever he was, it's just that he fit the identity of that word by what I had been taught and by what I knew in my little human mind of 6-7 years old when he first appeared. And that's what he was.
Now,
but when he shifted, I still call him a demon, but that's not what he was. It was more to the liking of what Socrates would have referred to.
Yeah. See, and again, let's get back to the vibration, the higher vibration, lower vibration. We often talk about this on Spaced Out Weekend as all humans having their own, everything has its own vibration, whether it's a rock, plant, some are higher than others, and they fluctuate in our life. It goes up and down depending on your mood. That's just who we are. Now, my understanding of vibration is that through meditation, I can raise my vibration. And my guides themselves are of a higher vibration. And to communicate with them, it's almost like they have to reach down from where they are while I'm reaching up. So I'm trying to work higher to contact them. And they are really having, in my case, they have to go down the escalator and say, okay, I'm going to throw you a rope, Jim, because this is a bit of a pain. But they have to reach down. So to get that communication, you've got to be in sync at that point. So again, everything has vibration. These beings have just a lower vibration than most, would you say most humans or most spirit guides?
Most spirits, period.
So even a ghost, which is a low vibration being.
Yeah. But I want you to think about it this way. I've got 2 examples for you, but I'm going to start with the real basic one. You are listening to a string quartet. You've got the viola, the violin, the cello, and the bass. You have 4 frequencies there. No one is any better or greater than the other. Each one represents a part of the greater orchestra. You can't have this quartet without all 4 pieces. The quartet will not sound. The pieces written for this particular arrangement of music and musical instruments will not be as beautiful or as meaningful without these frequencies. So while they may be a lower frequency than a ghost, it is because they have a deeper frequency, a richer frequency that goes down. It's a needed frequency that applies to the whole thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we talk frequency, we tend to, like what you said, I think, they're coming down the ladder to come lower to me. Now that we've kind of got that whole little music thing thinking, I'm gonna take you to the next explanation on frequency. We're not talking about, we work with sound, we work with light. These are all different frequency things. Light is frequency, sound is frequency, movement is a frequency. If we take our world, and we're getting into 3D, we're getting into 4D, we even kind of are scratching on 5th and 6th depth. There are depths that our minds can't even wrap around. And that's where these other frequencies exist. It's not necessarily going up or down. It's the tone, the energy of what makes that world, that layer, that depth, as it applies to the layering on our world. We're talking about a 7D world where we can see things that even the biggest supercomputers can't quite navigate yet without burning up.
As Leviathan rumbles through your kitchen.
He's just outside the window. He'll be fine.
She is just outside.
Wow.
I guess
it was a he.
It was a he? Yeah.
It was a he.
Yeah. Lilith, on the other hand, that wonderful goddess of love. Or if you're Jewish, the demon Lilith, Satan's favorite wife. So, yin, yang. One of the questions I want to throw to you are what we associate as demons. I know we've kind of answered this.
Yeah.
But could you refer to these as extraterrestrials, or are they earthly based? Or, conversely, are they what you would call heavenly based?
I've got a couple answers for that, because that's an amazing. Thank you for that question. Several years ago, if you had asked me that question, I've been like, okay, whatever you're taking, share. But now that I'm seeing these different things and I'm being introduced to them, there are some things that we consider demonic that I would definitely place on what we call ET. Because these things, they are playing on our fears. And what do we fear more than anything? Our demons. In other respects, there are things out there within these other dimensions, within these other worlds, within these layers upon our world, that it's kind of like we're in our own weird way. If you're going to Gettysburg soon, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I want you to do, and I want anyone who's ever been in a place that's really got a lot of energy in it, and Gettysburg has a ton of it. When we go into a place, we feel the energy, and in a way, we're in their territory. They're not in ours, we're in theirs. And there are times that I'm afraid the best explanation I have is when the veil drops, and these things see what we're doing. For them, their best course of action is to scare us, to frighten us with our fears. And it's a way of control. Certain religions rely very fiercely on our fear of hell, of damnation. Me and you, we've had a couple of adventures together with crossing individuals over, and we've had a couple who don't want to cross because they're afraid of it.
Oh, yeah.
But then once they see, and I'm not saying there isn't a heaven and hell, I'm just saying there's one spirit that I talked to put it perfectly, and I get it a lot now. It's not what we were told. There's a lot more to it than what we were told, and it's nothing like it.
Yeah. It was funny, Skeeter, today my daughter graduated, and they would hand a card to the people as they to some people as they walked on stage, and the people would read from this card a little quip or a little something that each grad wanted to say. And one of them was by a young fellow who, and what he said was, sin. Because you don't want Jesus to have died for nothing. And it took a while to sink in. And people were kind of looking at each other going, ooh, that's actually deeper than that kid probably anticipated it to be.
Yeah.
But that's exactly when you were crossing over some of the people. They were terrified because of what they had come to believe in life. And they had sinned. And when push comes to shove, they're on the other side and they're ready to go. It's like, oh, crap. I wasn't anticipating anything other than worms and mold. And now I'm here in spirit and they want me to go there. You know, let's go through the 10 Commandments. Yep. I'm 2 of those gone. I'm kind of screwed. And so they're not going to go. And you just have to tell them, say, buddy, move on. And we've talked about this, Skeeter.
Yeah.
What maybe had happened prior? What was going on prior to Christ dying or being crucified?
Same thing that's happening now.
So it wasn't worse. There wasn't a full-on, when you sinned, you were, recycled or something, but who knows? I'm going to come back after this break with young Skeeter, if she's still alive.
I'm working on it. I've been putting it on mute when you're not well.
Dying. Yes. We got a few questions in the chat room when we come back. 7-minute stretch. Everybody up. Ladies' choice. And we'll be back. More from Skeeter Welhouse and Demons right after this.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Hey, this is Canadian paranormal investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Coming September 29th to October 1st, the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon. Hi, this is Dave Scott. The event will be held at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Come join us for an amazing weekend of speakers talking all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Sasquatch, intuitiveness. Listen to great speakers like Miriam Delicato, Samantha Mowat, and the crypto guru Ronald Murphy. Get your VIP passes by going to spacedoutradio.com and clicking on the Paracon banner. Come to BC, where the paranormal is waiting for you.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Tonight's edition of Spaced Out Weekend is brought to you by spacedoutradio.com, where you can now sign up to become a Space Traveler member. Now, for the final time tonight, here's Spaced Out Weekend's James Tyson.
Welcome back, everybody, to Spaced Out Weekend. Tonight, we're talking demons with Skeeter Welhouse. She is your very own Tacoma psychic. We're just talking off air about her place, and she's actually on top of some old Shanghai tunnels. She's got a lovely spirit hanging out with her. Well, not that overly lovely, but it's like a very cool little location. What is the location?
We are in downtown Tacoma at 1132 Commerce Street in the breezeway between Commerce and Broadway, just above Mad Hat Teas.
Just above Mad Hat Teas. And obviously an old part of town?
It's an old part of town. It's the old downtown district. This is where a lot of the merchant businesses started up when Tacoma was originally more of a port town. And as it grew into more and more, this is where a lot of commerce and business occurred. That's kind of moved more uptown now, but this is the old downtown district. So the water's not far away. it's a really neat area, seeing all the old buildings and all the old architecture. This is an area that's really similar to Seattle because there is a city below the city, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I went to the underground in Seattle. And as a kid growing up in the Pacific Northwest, listening and watching television from Seattle, and my favorite guy, J.P. Patches, Tacoma, I'm pretty sure, was the Seattle city dump.
Yes.
Yes, that's what he referred it as. There's Seattle, and then there's the dump, which is we call Tacoma. Good feud between those two cities. So you got a lot of good ghosts, like, hey, sailor, what are you doing?
Yeah, we do, actually. There, in fact, last night I was at a friend's house that used to be a horror house. So you have male sailor ghosts coming in and going, hey, how much?
Hey,
and you're like,
hello,
no,
little
you're
girl.
dead. Go away.
You're dead, and the prices have gone up since you were last here.
Yes.
Wasn't it $2? Yeah, keep walking. Yeah, I saw you down on the dock yesterday with a couple of oars. Them's not oars, them's me sisters. Hey, hold on. Sorry, Newfoundland humor. Okay, we're talking demons. And, it's interesting. I'm learning lots, primarily because you hang with demons. And a lot of the stuff that I've always perceived as demons aren't really that demonic at all. But
no, and if you get someone in who's really good, they're gonna be able to tell you, no, this isn't really a demon. It's just something else.
Now, a friend of mine, Sean Whittington, who's in Las Vegas, he cleans places of demons, and he says that when he comes in the front door, or even just standing at the front door, he can hear them scream and taking off. Now, are those demons, or is he cleaning out elementals?
He's cleaning out a lot of things. What I'm being told is that sometimes it's really misplaced spirits is the best word that I can describe. It could be elementals. It can be things that were once human spirits that have gotten twisted because they haven't wanted to cross over or unable to cross over, so they got kind of warped. So it's these different things.
Okay, because he will go into a house and then come out and see one of these black shadowy things standing across the street looking at him, like very angry that he's get pushed out.
Yeah.
Or giant birds on the roof. He describes them as a very large bird just screaming at him.
And if it's birds or some kind of animalistic thing or natural thing, so to speak, it's usually an elemental. The shadows sometimes are elementals or other entities from whatever realm. Sometimes they're just humans that have been expelled. These twisted human-esque things that are no longer really human.
Is that like that one we've been trying to clear, Skeeter? Up here in outside of Vancouver, British Columbia, we had a lady who had passed, and somebody tried to exorcise her like a demon, and it screwed her all up?
Yeah.
Okay. So note to self, don't try to exorcise a ghost thinking it's a demon, because you're just going to damage the person on the other side. Are you still there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Now I can, yeah.
No, I had to mute it real quick. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. A little bit farty?
Farty. Other end.
Okay. So we forget that, pulling in energy and using it as amateur wannabe ghost hunters /humans / bringing in a priest to bless a house or move something on, we can actually hurt, so to speak, something that's lost.
Yeah. And we don't just hurt the entity, we hurt the human that they're tied into. Because there's a mind game going on there. There's it's almost a parasitic, symbiotic, weird combo relationship going on there. So if you don't do it in a respectful way, you can really do a lot of harm. And, you know, one of the things, most groups will not tell you this. A good group will. But if you go in and you smudge a place and you chase the spirits out and you're not fully understanding the circumstance other than you just want them gone out, they will come back eventually. And when they come back, they're going to be in a really bad mood. And your activity may have been a 3 or a 4 before. It can go as high as a 10 when they come back, because they're going to come back like, dude, we had an agreement. What the hell? If you bring someone in like your friend who genuinely understands the delicacies, and believe me, I have met some amazing priests who can go in and clear a place. I have met some amazing shamans. I have met some amazing healers. I have met people who I have watched and idolized and have taken cues from on how to do this in the most respectful and honorable way possible, so that when they walk away and say it's good, it's genuinely good. However, on the flip side, I have met some people who are like, yes, I am the best, and they charge hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to do this work, and the person comes back going, I paid you all this money and I'm still seeing things. In fact, yesterday I had a wonderful woman come in to our shop, and she had just paid another woman $500 to cleanse her house. And that night, the night after she had it cleansed, a ghost, a full-bodied apparition, walks by her bed. She wakes up, sees it. It looks at her kind of like, hi, how are ya? Keeps walking by the bed and goes through the wall. And she's like, I just paid that woman $500 to cleanse my house, and here they are prancing through my bedroom. What's going on? And I'm like, well, if you want, I'll come back and do it. And she's like, well, I'm tapped out. And I said, I don't charge to do this. If you give me a tip, you take me over to McDonald's and buy me a soda or an ice cream cone, I'm good. I'm just, have some water. I may bring a couple things. Every client I do a cleansing for, I bring stuff and I leave it there. Depending on what the situation is. And if they give me a tip, I'm very grateful. I'm incredibly humbled if they give me a tip. And I always tell them, no, you don't have to do this. Because I don't want them to feel like their safety is financially based. Their safety to me and the safety of the spirits that I'm helping is what is most important to me.
Yeah, I'd always be leery of somebody who wants money for something like that, because those people out there who can be taken advantage of easily by somebody who's a little unscrupulous, who's a criminal, will continue to be a parasite on somebody they see with money.
Yeah, and I have some wonderful clients in La La Land who I've done work for, and
sorry, in La La Land?
I have to be politically incorrect in order to hide their identities.
Oh, okay. So Los Angeles.
Yeah. But you know what? They thought it was funny because they were like, "Oh my God, we need you down here. We need you down here." And I was like, "They're like, what would it take to get you down here?" And I said, "Well, I hate to ask for this, but if you can, if you can help pay my travel costs and give me a room and a little food, and I'll stay there for as long as it takes to get you guys back on track."
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Oh, that's great. That's great." And it was really sweet because they did. They covered my travel. They gave me a room in their home. I was blown away. I felt incredibly humbled. I was thanking them every day for allowing me to be a part of their lives, for treating me so kindly as I did what I did for them. For me, that was a little bit extravagant to ask for, but it was a bit of a distance for me to go.
Oh, yeah.
I have had some clients who, they're a little bit poor, but they're like, "You know what, if you can at least get here, we can at least give you a bed and we can share our food with you." And I'm like, that works. As long as I have a place to sleep and a place to eat, I'm good.
And you definitely tell them beforehand that you're a little bit farty. So that's good.
Thank you.
When we look at lists of, we'll call them either the biblical or the religion-based, and I don't mean Christianity or Catholicism or Protestant or Jewish or Muslim, the demon list, all the different names. Do those names actually resonate or connect with an individual entity?
Yes.
Okay.
Not in the way that we think it does. Like I was mentioning earlier about Zephyr. Mm-hmm. Zephyr has never given me his demonic name. The name that is signed through Christian, Catholic, Judeo belief. There is power in names.
Okay.
The reason these certain names are given, and I had an amazing priest in my life, and it's really funny because I was really atheist at the time. I was atheist, bordering on agnostic, bordering on crazy. And this wonderful man stepped into my life, and he said, if you break down the names, pull out a Latin book, a book with Sanskrit in it, start breaking down those names, you'll start seeing what those names mean.
Okay.
A lot of those names were created to identify what it was. When I tell you an angel's name, Gabriel, who do you think of?
I think of a guy that's an angel, but that's just me.
But Gabriel is the angel who made the announcement to Mary that she would be with child. If I tell you the angel Michael, who do you imagine?
He's the guy who slayed or beat the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I give you the name of an angel, you automatically know that this is an angel, and you can kind of, if you know enough about the stories of the angels, you can identify which angel it is. And you know their place, rank, situation. If you don't, you can Google the name and it's right there. And it's the same with demons. You can Google their name and see kind of what it means. If you're willing to do the work to go back and really break down the name, you can identify what it is that they do.
Yeah.
Now, I want to play on this a little bit further about why the power of the name is so important. If I you know the saying, your ears are burning, we were talking about you, your ears must have been burning, we were talking about you. When you mention someone's name and all of a sudden they call,
mm-hmm.
That's the power of a name.
See, and that's what, when I joke around about doing a paranormal investigation in a cemetery, and like, why would some spirit want to hang out with a bunch of rotting people in boxes? But the only times you've really connected with somebody is actually if you read the name on the tombstone.
Yeah.
And it's like they show up saying, "What, you called? Who are you? I don't know you. What are you doing? Why did you call my name?" Yeah, that's interesting.
There's a lot of power in a name.
Yeah, there's, the Etruscan, we talk about a mantis being. Mantis, in the Etruscan, that's god of hell. It's funny, there's a very nice little town in British Columbia, up by a lake, beautiful summer resort. It's called Oyama. It's a Japanese name for Satan. So it's like, we have these names kicking around, and we see them in different in different ways, in different uses. So when you start, even if you know a guy, you saw somebody named Leonard, it's you're in German is a demon of Socrates or sorcery. A demon of sorcery is Leonard. And appears as a giant black goat. So it's, the names through history are used in multiple ways. But again, like you say, to get the Latin to break it down into its original meaning, because a lot of these are very, very obtuse. If you were looking at half of them, I couldn't pronounce because. Other than behemoth, like when you call somebody a big behemoth, in Hebrew it's another name for Satan, and some of the other religions, behemoth means like the guy who eats too much, the big, not eats, but wants everything in
but it's a glutton.
Yeah, a glutton. So it's actually a demon.
And gluttony is a sin. Gluttony is a sin, which means it's a demon.
Yeah, so... Yeah, and Beelzebub.
That's
the devil
a fun
put
one.
It's Beelzebub.
I think someone sneezed. No.
And Beelzebub is supposed to be one above Satan. Really, it's like the prince of darkness.
Depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, Satan. Yeah, he's down there. He's a prince of darkness. I run everything. I'm the Lord of the Flies, and. And we were doing a paranormal investigation at this very, very sad residential school up in a nun's office, and the window started getting covered with black flies. And that's all I could think of. We're going, oh, great. we got a full on biblical, it was almost a Ghostbusters moment. We've got this thing, we've got a biblical demon showing up because we have flies on the inside of the window.
Yes.
Yeah. Or, actually, I just totally got goosebumps on one side of me. So, I don't know. I just don't know if there was something stinky and the flies hatched, or we had a demon show up.
But if you think about it, flies respond to energy very quickly. Mm-hmm. They're drawn to places where there's warmth, where there's certain vibes. That's why they want to be near certain types of people, certain scents, certain things. They have a certain job that they're drawn to. They don't just automatically... They don't have cell phones, and they don't call each other going, "Hey, Joe, there's a dead cow over here. It's time to, get it on and lay some eggs and get the maggots going." And no, they're drawn to something that we can't identify that pulls them en masse over to that. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with that energy. When you get that energy going, you have these. It's actually, if you look it up, it's a very specific breed of fly. I think there's 3 breeds of flies that are usually associated with demonic activity within a home, and they're normally the larger flies. They're the black flies, and they have the larger eyes. And people, when they start seeing them gather en masse, it's like, oh my God, what's going on. For me, I have to admit, I do look for a lot of the same identifying tags that the church would look for, that any religious group would look for, that a shaman would look for. And the flies are, in a layman's type of way, a sign that there is some kind of energy going on there, that something has become stagnant and stale and is rotting there. Flies are part of the cleanup crew.
Yeah, and I look at flies as being, they're not really harbingers of death. They are, like you say, they come after death.
Yeah.
They very seldom will hang around. Well, I guess they could gather before you die. Kind of getting... no, they will. They'll...
Yeah, they will, but...
Yeah, like
that's because
crows.
your body actually is starting to deteriorate before you actually die.
Yes, and it's a horrid smell. It's called old people smell. And you can cover it with white shoulders or a cologne that has a wooden top on it, but I tell you, it still makes you smell like kerosene and death. It's it's hard to explain. Even you can talk about old people with that smell, but I've smelled it around dying 30-year-olds in car accidents. There's a smell. And you kind of go, oh, but that's just hindsight. Now I can look back at it going, I had that smell in these locations. And I've always taken it as a warning that I smell it and it's a very unique smell. Same with the dead body. If you've been around bodies, if you've been around dead bodies,
yes, actually,
like out in a field and stuff like that, once you smell that smell, it's primal. It goes back into your DNA, and it tells you, keep your head up. There's something around here that will kill you because there is somebody else who's already died. And once you've had that encounter, you'll never forget it. And it makes all your spidey senses tingle. You are looking to be, in my case, I was like looking, going, oh crap, I don't want to go around that corner because I don't have the Vicks Vapor Rub with me. It's in my briefcase back in the car. And we put it on below your nose.
Yep, you put it in the little divot just about between the tip of your nose and the upper part of your lip.
Yeah, and that would keep it all right. I'd also carry one of those, like a dust mask, and I'd rub it a little bit on the inside of the dust mask. So, and that helped. The rest of it...
Cadaver class was so fun.
Well, that was... For me, you've come across a body that's been around for a while, and it's basically a science experiment. When you look at it, you don't look at it as being human. And if you do, you're screwed up when you go home. Because you take that home with you. If you look at it as a project, I guess it's like a emergency room physician when the people come in. If you look at it as a person and not a project or a puzzle, it's just a different part of your brain, and you end up taking it home. Same with car accidents. Yeah, I used to tell young Mounties, if you've come up to a scene of a fatal accident and you're like the fourth guy there and you have nothing to do, either keep driving or park 100 yards from it and direct traffic. Don't go look at it, because unless your head is busy, you're seeing it with a different eye. And there you all of a sudden you're having nightmares, you can't sleep, and you can't figure out why. Well, you've got PTSD because something hit it. But when we're talking about flies,
I have a very different experience with that, because for me, when I was in cadaver class, when I was in the anthropology class to help identify bodies, looking at skeletons, looking at bodies, everybody wanted to be on my team because for some odd reason I was really good at telling who it was and which ID it went with. And I didn't have the heart to tell them that I was talking to the dead person. Psychically going, okay, so I see What's your name? Who are you? How are you?
Oh, you were good with names then? Way to go.
Yeah. Well, I had a list in front of me, so I could go, are you this one? I'm getting better with names. All of a sudden, names are starting to come through, which is cool.
Yeah.
But for me, I had a very different respect. I mean, I when I was doing the paper route, I found a body in the dumpster, and it was in really bad shape. And the first thing I did was ask him if he was okay, which, is weird, but for me it was like, okay, I'm asking the spirit. And it was funny because I remember as a kid, I was first learning to drive and I came upon this car accident. It had just happened. And there was a woman, you could see her from the road, and her head was smashed open. And it was weird because I knew in a way I should be emotionally triggered, just like when you see the flies, there should be some kind of trigger there. There's something there. Me, I was asking her if she was okay. Does she understand what happened? Because I knew instinctually that this person was dead, and I knew instinctually, because of what I am, that she's got to be freaked out because she was just literally thrown out of her body. And it's a very weird, different perspective hearing how you're prompting them to keep your mind busy, whereas me, I'm focusing in, helping them. And going back to the flies and that smell, these are signs that you look for, that you don't even need psychic senses to go, okay, there's something here. I'm looking for these signs. I'm looking for this information. I've got a track record with this where I know that once I see sign A, sign B, sign C, I am going to be dealing with something.
Yeah.
In apartment F, when I failed my first test against this demon, to be real honest, that thing, it still gets under my skin because the fact that I can see them and the fact that he showed me something that just absolutely, even The Exorcist is funny to me now after seeing that thing. It had to dig deep to really scare me and to push my buttons. And for me, there were the signs. There was something off, and I didn't trigger to it as quickly as I should have. And now, when I get triggered, when something clicks, I start looking for the rest of the clicks, and flies are part of that click. And I start looking for other signs, and it's kind of like, those little charts you see on Facebook now and again. Okay, if you are such and such, are you A or B? Well, it's B. Okay, so we go down to B. Okay, so is it this or this? Okay, it's that. And now I start going down this way, and eventually I can figure out what's going on. In that circumstance in apartment F, it was hitting me so hard and so fast, and I had a little one to protect. I've never been in a position where I've had to fight these things and have my own child involved. If it had just been me and my husband, I would have been like, go ahead, take him, I will take you. But it was threatening my child, and I'm like, oh, no. And I went the wrong direction because I let my fear and anger and aggression lead. And it's funny because we see these flies, we see these groups of flies, and we automatically start jumping to conclusions. We start letting our fears take lead. We start letting our superstitions take lead. Oh my goodness, there's a crack in the mirror. The walls rattled. It doesn't matter that there's a train just behind the house, but the walls rattled. And, we start. It's, again, going back to a curse. 95% of it is superstitious. It's in your head. And once you start seeing those signs, you can go either the way of, okay, I understand that a fly is being drawn to a certain energy. There's a stagnation here. There is something, it is telling me that there is something decomposing here. There is stagnant, stale, dead energy here. That is why the fly is here. So I need to find out why the energy here is stale and dead and stagnant.
Oh, I see. Like, we've walked into places quite often in life that you just feel a change of energy.
Yes.
Whether there's a fly around or not is just either is overwhelmingly, like, it's heavy on your shoulders. You just have a hard time breathing, maybe. And
yeah.
Whether it's in a damp, dark location or a very dry, bright location, it's just a point of energy.
Yeah.
And in your case, you would then delve to find what is causing that change.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if I walk into a elementary school where there's kids laughing and playing, and there's this one classroom that nobody wants to be in, even the teacher has asked for an assignment, even if she had to take the janitor's closet, and the kids were more than happy to sit on the buckets and on the mops because they also didn't want a classroom, then that's telling me there's an extreme amount of energy in that room that goes against everything else in that spot.
Okay. Yeah, and when you feel that, is that something that could be brought in, let's say, by something we may deem as demonic, or is that a crisis of possibly someone who had passed and is lost?
It can be both. When you go to the Civil War location, Gettysburg, and you stand in those battlefields, you're going to feel a massive energy change. And a lot of that is residual. Yeah. Some of it is still very active.
Well, I know you and I, or you, but I drive along with you on these things, trying to clear a house in the other side of Canada, right across the river from Detroit, Michigan. And at the back of this line of 36 souls that wanted to go, there were 3 or 4 that were still fighting a war from the 1600s and had a hard time hearing you because of the cannons.
Yep.
So, and they didn't want to leave because, and I understand this from Gettysburg too, and a few other battlefields, that over 5 years of fighting or 4 years of fighting, and you got to remember the soldiers were 16, 17, 18 years old, or younger in some cases. These kids, the only family they may have had are their fellow soldiers. So they don't want to leave because the battle is still on to them. And they don't want to leave their buddies to fight by themselves. So they haven't crossed and they don't want to. They're very confused.
Yep. And here's a really great example of that. My grandfather served in the Navy on a ship known as the Grey Ghost. I think it was the Luxembourg. It was a carrier, and it did see battle. And I was on the ship with my grandpa. It was parked in Texas, one of the ports there in Texas. And they were doing tours on it. And being what I am, I could see the residual energies that had taken imprint during extreme times of emotion on the ship.
But,
and I could also see...
Just a sec. Are you sure it wasn't the Lexington?
Lexington, thank you.
Okay, cool. Because it's very haunted.
Yes, it is. And I also saw those who had died on the Lexington. And it was really funny. We got to one point, and my grandpa was explaining that this was their area and this is where he was. And this man came up behind us, and he told me to stand straight. And he looked at my grandpa, and he said, "Johnny, what you doing here? You should be up in such and such." and my grandpa didn't respond. And he looks at me and goes, "What's wrong with him?" And I'm like, "Sir, first off, you're scary, and two, you're dead. Can I please be at ease?" Yeah, that was his response, and he's like, "Oh no, we're in battle right now. And all of a sudden, this whistle went off, and a whole bunch of men ran by me. They were all ghosts, but they looked very real. And all of a sudden, this captain looked at my grandfather, and it was really freaky weird because all of a sudden, I saw the residual energy of my grandpa during a battle part play out. So here was my living grandpa in front of me, and here is his residual memory on the ship going by into his position."
Wow. Yeah, that was World War II. Yeah, that's a huge part of U.S. Navy back in the Second World War. Do you know what the nickname for that boat is?
The Gray Ghost.
The Blue Ghost. Yeah,
Blue Ghost.
The Blue Ghost. Very interesting.
Yes, I have some little things from it because of my grandpa, which who I miss greatly. But, that was a hell of an experience. But all those guys they don't want to leave that ship. They don't want to cross because as far as they're concerned, they're still fighting those battles. And that's why they don't want to cross, because they're still with their buddies. They're still with their team. And it was really weird because here was my grandfather's residual spirit still on the ship, fighting those battles, staying with the team. And once his residual ghost came through, the captain relaxed, let loose, because my grandfather, in a sense, was doing what he was being told to do.
Wow.
And it was really interesting because, here was this overlapping layers. And for them, that's what it is. It's these overlapping layers. We're kind of like the ghosts in their world. We're like things in the way when we get into their space. Yeah, and that was an amazing experience. And you're going to have a blast in Gettysburg because you're going to get to be a part of it.
Any demons that I have to worry about?
No.
Okay. Dang it. Hey, am I going to see something?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And you'll probably feel something touch you. So that'll be really cool.
Very cool. I'm going to get a tourist shirt and a tourist hat.
Oh, no.
Yes. I'm with this ghost. Yeah, it should be fun. It should be a good time at the Gettysburg Paranormal, as you were, Paracon, June 22nd to the 24th. If you're in the area, Gettysburg, PA, drop by. It's should be a fun time. I'm going to be there from the 21st to the 28th, kicking around that area, bouncing around. The land in Harrisburg on the 21st, and putter or grab a car, and I may even go over to Washington, D.C. and check out one of the Smithsonian.
You're going to love that.
Yeah, I'd like to. Maybe go to the White House and see if there's a job opening. I was thinking,
I don't know.
I want to be one of those the guy who comes out and says, "Okay, today the president did this," and answer questions. Because I would love to be the question answerer person there. Communications.
I wouldn't want to do that right now.
Oh, just be so much fun. Could you tell me why he did this? No, beats the hell out of me. Next question. I don't know. Hey, but we did find the president has 3 numbers on the back of his head. They're 3 9s, so don't worry about it. Your demon issues, would you basically be able to tell the listener that demons are basically not as bad as we've made out, or to keep your heads up as you're dealing with them?
When you face a demon, 1, don't play into your fears. Don't fall into superstition. Don't freak out because a cat crossed your path or you dropped a mirror or anything like that. Do be aware in the respect of what I talked about in the first half of the show. It's there to feed on your fears. It's there to feed on your anger. It's there to feed on those things that we associate with being on the do not do list of the 10 Commandments. Figure out why you're in those places. Why are you in a place of deep depression? Why are you in a place where you are easily angered? What is going on for you? Don't be one of those people. I almost yelled at one of my clients the other day because she's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And I'm like, I will give you back every dollar you are spending on your reading today if you promise me you will take it over to the clinic and talk to a psychologist. Because you don't need me, you need a psychologist. So pay attention to what it is pulling out of you. What is it triggering? Don't be so naive as to be like, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm in happy land. Why is this thing trying to destroy my life? There's something going on with you that this thing is drawn to, that its energy is kicking up. Are you stressed? Are you buying a new house? Are you remodeling? It's really ironic that these ghosts act up when we remodel a building or when we move into a new home. Because guess what? When we are remodeling, we're stressed. There's a lot of money going on. There's surprises behind the walls. For any of you who have ever remodeled an old home, that's stressful. There's a lot of emotion going on there. Even if you have the most fantastic contractor doing it, there is stress there. Even if it's a different contractor, that contractor's got 5 different jobs going on that he's juggling. Whatever's going on that's triggering a lot of emotion, it's feeding them. During the break, I was telling James about something that people would consider demonic that lives in the wall across from our shop. We've lovingly named him. He told us his name, and we call him by that name. But he's in charge of a lot of things, and he feeds on fears and emotions and stress. And there's reasons as to why those who he's feeding off of have those things. And, pay attention to why these things are coming into your life. If you have a little who is waking up to their gifts, believe me, when I was itty bitty and I saw some of the things I saw for the first time, yeah, that's scary as all hell, because you go to your dad and your dad's telling you, oh no, it's all in your imagination. It was a nightmare. Go back to bed. And you're like, no, I'm awake. It's still in my bed. I'm not going there.
Oh, I've dealt with a few kids like that. Mommy, there's this man hovering over my bed. Go back to sleep. No.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go back
in the yard with the horses. Yes. I'm good.
We don't have horses. Oh, really? I see them. We had a question. Could a spirit turn demonic when all the people who witnessed an abuse, let's say, has died? If you witnessed abuse and you've died without exposing the key info, so you've got all this information about how the gas chambers worked, you didn't tell anybody and you didn't try to stop it and you died, is that going to affect your
that's going to affect your own energy. And when you're in a ghostly form, and this is something that I've come across, and this is why I always tell people, don't always jump to the conclusion that it's a demon. Because 9 times out of 10, it's one of these twisted ghosts. It's one of these twisted spirits that have been a part of, that witnessed something that somehow in life, their real life got twisted, and in death, it's even more twisted. it's become beyond warped to where you get these extremely bizarre looking shadow images, or psychics even see these bizarre shaped creatures because they've become so twisted. There's an asylum in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's now a hotel, ironically, a beautiful, charming old hotel, and the offices are in the crematorium.
Oh, lovely.
But I went there one time when I was still kind of learning what's demonic and what's not, and what demonic really is. And in this asylum, there was this thing. It was twisted and mouse-shaped, and the face, you know, in the horror movies, when they have the face lurch forward and the jaw and the face and everything gets distorted, and they're like, oh my God, it's a demon. And it's not. It was this man at one time who was born physically deformed and mentally not there. There was some learning deficiencies and things that made him more childlike. And he had been sexually abused and physically abused and tortured. And it had, and he had no capacity to tell anyone or anything. And now in death, when he's free of that body and free of those restrictions of flesh, he's now twisted into this thing that you would swear is demonic, and he hurts people. He will shove people. He will pull hair. He'll turn off the lights. He'll make light bulbs explode. He'll slam doors. He'll move desks. He'll grab women sexually. I don't think I ever sped walked so quickly in my life as when I had to walk through that place with a friend of mine. But he just, and being what I am, I could just feel, and people say you almost hear like this animalistic sound, and it was like someone, I mean, don't get me wrong, I grew up on a farm where we respectfully slaughtered animals for food, but this was something that was just being tortured.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it left, I had nightmares, and you would swear up and down that thing was demonic.
And so if anybody's going to the Park Hotel, Hotel Park Central, have a nice time. Welcome to Albuquerque, a place you really should have taken that left. Skeeter, it's that time almost.
Well, after that lovely story, good night all. And
no, hold on. You're not getting out of here that easy. Plus, you know, I think one of the oddest things you said, you respect. I've never heard respectfully and slaughtered in the same sentence before. You know, we respectfully put down those animals before, but no, we respectfully slaughtered them. And slaughter is such a violent word.
Well,
it's just, you didn't slaughter them. You just popped them in the head gently, and they drifted off.
We gave them kisses, and they fell asleep.
A little kiss on the forehead, and 800-pound cow went onto your first child. We don't talk about him, though.
No, when you grow up on a real family farm, you have a different respect for the animals, and you.
Yeah, I think you would. It's Skeeter. Where, if I want to get a hold of you in beautiful uptown, downtown Tacoma, where, if I want to get a hold of you via phone. I don't think that works. But what's your website?
It is bluemoonweaver.com. It is under construction right now. There are some new things being added, but there's the contact information is on there. There's an option to call the shop directly to set up an appointment. And there's also a second phone number on there that says text me. If anybody knows me, they know the best way to reach me is actually through text. So I've got that number on there to text me directly.
Cool. And Skeeter also will check for things around your house, clear stuff out. She does everything but windows. And please don't pull a knife on her.
No.
Really appreciate it. But if you want some more Skeeter, she's in tomorrow night with 2 mediums and a large. And I know there was Isabel wanted to know if the phones are open tonight because she thought she had a contact with a demon. Isabel, if you're up tomorrow, give her a shout and talk about it. Or anybody else out there who has questions about demons, phones are open tomorrow night. And I want to thank everybody for jumping in on Spaced Out Weekend. Thanks, Skeeter. And I want to thank all the questions from the chat room. And for everybody else out there, just keep an open mind.
That's it. Let's roll. And hey! Let's be careful out there.
Far over the snow, what are those voices? They sing and they go. What are those voices? Look over the mountain. Because somebody hide, somebody better hide on through the hill, like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. We are after you, dead or alive. We are out to get you, dead or alive. And forget your soul. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done. Throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man that after now.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Dave's not here!
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.